There's within my heart a melody. Jesus whispers sweet and low. Fear not, I am with thee, be still, in all of life's ebbs and flow. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know. Fill my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. All my life was wrecked by sin and strife, but discord fills my heart with pain. Jesus swept across the broken strings, stirred the slumbering chords again. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go, feasting on the riches of His grace, resting beneath His sweltering wing, always looking on His smiling face. That is why I shout and sing. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. Though sometimes He leads through waters deep, trials fall across the way. Though sometimes the path seems rough and steep, see His footprints all the way. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. Soon He's coming back to welcome me, far beyond the starry sky. I shall wing my flight to worlds unknown, I shall reign with Him on high. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. Number 120.
Fanny Crosby.
Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine, heir of salvation, purchased of God, born of His Spirit, washed in His blood. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, perfect delight, visions of rapture now burst on my sight. Angels descending, bring from above whispers of love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, all is at rest. I and my Savior am happy and blessed, watching and waiting, looking above, filled with His goodness, lost in His love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Thank you. Thank all of us for singing. All right. I always read to you some of our emails before we start. And these are people that write to us from around the world. We are live streaming right now throughout the world. They're getting a hold of us in Spain and in Italy and in France and in Australia and all over Africa and South America. And some of these people are from those foreign lands and they write to us. And I try to answer the questions as best I can. Let me say something about answering these emails. I am an old dog, you might call me that. Been around a long time. I know when people are putting me on. I know when they're fighting me, when I'm reading, by the way I read and by what they're saying. I know when they're trying to sound profound, and I'll say that. If they're saying things that don't make any sense, I'll say, I don't understand what you're even talking about. I've been around a long time, at 80, be 85 next May, and I'm hard to fool. Even with your polished words and your big extended vocabulary, it's hard to fool me. So give me that, okay? I've had people complain about, well, you sound like you're putting them down. I know when they're giving me a hard time. I know that. And I know when they're trying to contradict me, and I know when they're just trying to sound fluffy and intellectual, and I know that. So if you're going to write to me, write with plain, straight questions. Don't write to me. And if you're going to contradict me, I'm going to contradict you. And I got people who write to me like that. James Young writes from South Carolina. He loves the message we teach. He says, Dear Jim, America is doomed. I believe that. I believe we're going down, 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 like J.D. Sumner would do. Down, way on down. We are falling as an empire. I am 32 years old now, and America is evil. It is evil. It has never been a Christian nation, not even among the early presidents. George Washington was a crook. I keep saying that. Read the book, Presidential Ambition, by Richard Schenkman. Mr. Schenkman is a respected historian in America, and he'll tell you that all the presidents lie. All the past presidents lied. They have to lie to get into office, and then when they get in office, they've got to keep lying in order to keep their constituents voting for them. And he says, it's so evil. I refuse to marry in this day and time. It's so evil, people would be foolish to send their children to the military. You're talking to me now because I know all about that. I had a singing group that sang in military bases all over America. I mean, everywhere from Fort Hood to Fort Campbell to Lackland Air Force Base to Shepherd Air Force Base in Texas to Luke and Davis Monthan and Cass Sawyer up in Michigan. and march out in California. I've been in Eglin in England, down in England Air Force Base down in Louisiana, and Eglin Air Force Base down in Florida, and Fort Bragg. I've been in all these places, and I've seen the military. It's one of the most corrupt things I've ever been around. There's so much adultery in the military. They say they don't want homosexuals in it, but the amount of adultery is just unbelievable. I was at Dover Air Force Base in Dover, Delaware, and I was talking to this full colonel's wife. They have all the scrambled eggs on their hat, and that means he's right before becoming a general, and he was a commander of the C-5 squadrons over there. And I was in a club one night with them, and his wife, his name was Fox, and they called his wife Foxy, and he was Colonel Fox, and she said, "You see that colonel over there, the tall one, the blonde-headed one?" I said, "I know him." And she said, "You see that woman beside him? That's his wife." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, she's married to a general, except he's not a general and he's not going to make general." She said, "You know what that means?" She's going to divorce him. She said, "Exactly." And that's how corrupt it is. And there's so much drinking. And I was up at Rickenbacker Air Force Base. The commander he was also a full colonel, and his name was Dave Woods. And I was sitting at a table. This is back when I wasn't living the way I should. I wasn't drinking, but they were drinking. And Dave Wood said, Colonel Wood said, I said, "I can't tell the difference between a drunk colonel and a drunk airman. That's the lowest on it." He just laughed and thought that was funny. Because they get drunk. I was at a Reese Air Force Base, and the guy was drunk, laying on the foyer, laying flat face on the foyer, and the manager of the club come up and picked him up by the belt and moved him over the side. After a while, the guy come to his senses, and he stood up on his feet, went out and got in his car and drove away. I thought, golly, he was so drunk he couldn't stand up, but he got out in his car and drove. I've seen that in the military. They don't want homosexuals in the military, but they don't mind adulterers in it and drunks. And they're packed full of that. I've been there, know all about it. It's so evil that people replace Christ with politicians. It's so evil that lust is ramped up and instant. This is a 32-year-old guy saying this. This will bring us down like Rome. Oh, we're going to crash before it's over with. I told the guy that owns this unit here, Don Mercer, the other day, I said, America's got to crash because every democracy in the ancient world has crashed, and every republic. Rome was a republic like we are supposed to be. Morally, as a nation, we are evil and wicked. That's exactly right. America's never been Christian. Read Mr. Shingman's books. Read James Lowen's books. You can get them at Barnes and Noble. You can order them if they don't have them. And it's shocking to read it because you don't want to put the book down. You're going, wow, this is unbelievable. Yes, we have plenty, but do we serve God? No, we don't. Thank you. That's very right, James. We cannot get along. Trump is not my savior. He's not mine either. I don't believe in Donald Trump or Joe Biden or the Bushes or Obama or Reagan, who claimed to be a Christian. He wasn't no more Christian than some monkey in a cage. We had a guy used to come here, and he was in the military, and he was stationed at the White House, and he said when Reagan and Colin Powell would get in the car and he was chauffeuring them somewhere, they'd be cussing, and Reagan would be claiming to be a Christian. He wasn't a Christian. Christians take their cross and die daily, and he didn't do that. He didn't ever make anybody mad. He tried to make everybody feel good. Christ is my Savior. We will collapse like the Soviets. I believe that. James Young in South Carolina. Thank you, James, for your good email. And then Then we got an email from Dwayne in Smyrna. He's a part of our ministry. Hi, Pastor Brown. Could you talk about Genesis 6:6 for a bit? Much agape and phileo. Dwayne in Smyrna. Genesis 6